Forget the Hollywood horror story. The real Annabelle wasn't some porcelain doll with a sinister painted-on smile. She was a child's toy, a simple Raggedy Ann doll. But the story of what happened around her is far more terrifying than any movie. We're talking mysterious notes written on parchment paper, brutal and unexplained scratches, and a desperate plea to the world's most famous paranormal investigators. And the scariest part? The story isn't over. Decades later, the doll is still making headlines, a silent prisoner with a dark legacy that continues to unfold. This is the story they didn't show you. Our story starts not in a Gothic mansion, but in a small apartment back in 1970. A nursing student named Donna was celebrating her 28th birthday, and her mother gave her a gift she'd found in a hobby shop, a Raggedy Ann doll. For Donna and her roommate Angie, it was just a quaint, nostalgic piece of childhood. They placed it on a bed as a decoration, and for a while that's all it was, a silent, smiling doll in a nurse's apartment. They had no idea this simple gift would soon pull them into a nightmare that would capture the world's attention. The doll, they would soon learn, had a name: Annabelle. The first signs that something was wrong were small, almost easy to dismiss. Donna and Angie would leave the apartment in the morning with Annabelle sitting on the bed, her legs crossed and arms at her side. But when they'd get back, they'd find her in a different position. Maybe her legs would be uncrossed, or an arm would be moved. They tried to rationalize it. Maybe the bed was bumped, or the doll just settled. But the movements became more and more dramatic. Soon they were finding her in completely different rooms. They'd leave her on the bed, only to come home and find her sitting on the couch in the living room, as if she were waiting for them. One time they reportedly found her standing on her own 2 feet, leaning against a chair. For a floppy Raggedy Ann doll, this seemed impossible. A creeping dread started to set in. It became clear they weren't alone, and their silent little doll was at the centre of it all. It felt like a child was playing games with them, moving the doll when no one was looking. But that playful feeling wouldn't last. Then the activity went from just moving to communicating. The women started finding handwritten notes around the apartment. They were written in pencil in a messy, childish scrawl on pieces of parchment paper. The messages were chillingly simple. Some said, "Help us." Others said, "Help Lou." Lou was a friend of theirs who was around the apartment a lot, and from the very beginning he hated that doll. He told the women it felt evil and that they needed to get rid of it. He had no idea how right he was, or that whatever was happening was already singling him out. The strangest part? Donna and Angie didn't even own any parchment paper. They searched the entire apartment but couldn't find where it was coming from. It was as if the notes were appearing out of thin air, left by an unseen hand. The doll was no longer just moving. It was trying to tell them something, and its messages were getting more desperate. Back at their home in Connecticut, which also housed their occult museum, the Warrens initially placed the Annabelle doll on a chair in Ed's office. But the trouble allegedly started right away. The doll was said to levitate and appear in different rooms of the house. Fearing for his family's safety, Ed knew he had to contain it. He had a special case built for Annabelle, a wooden and glass enclosure inscribed with the Lord's Prayer, and placed the doll inside, where it remains to this day. But even being locked up didn't stop its malevolent influence. The Warrens often told the story of a young man who visited the museum and openly mocked the doll's story. He walked up to the case, started banging on the glass, and dared the doll to do something. Ed, furious, kicked the man out of the museum. The story goes that on the way home, the man lost control of his motorcycle and crashed head-on into a tree and was killed instantly. His girlfriend, who survived, later told the Warrens that just before the crash, they had been laughing and joking about the doll. The warning on the case is clear. Positively, do not open. For decades, Annabelle sat in her case as the centerpiece of the Warrens' occult museum. After Ed and Lorraine passed away, their son-in-law, Tony Spera, took over as the caretaker of the haunted collection. However, in 2019, the museum was forced to close to the public due to residential zoning issues. The story took another shocking turn in August 2025. It was announced that the Warrens' home and museum property had been purchased by comedian and paranormal enthusiast Matt Rife, along with YouTuber Elton Castee. While the Warren family, through Tony Spera, still owns the collection itself, Rife and Castee have become the legal guardians of all the artefacts, including Annabelle, for at least the next 5 years. Their plan is to reopen the historic property for tours and even overnight stays, allowing the public closer access than ever before. From a simple child's toy in a nurse's apartment to a vessel for a demonic entity and now a cursed object under new guardianship, the story of Annabelle is a chilling testament to the unseen world. It's a stark warning that some objects are best left alone and some doors should never be opened. The Hollywood films captured our imagination, but the real story is a far more personal and ongoing tale of terror. Now, poised to enter a new era of public exposure, the doll's dark legacy continues to unfold. The story isn't over. A new chapter for Annabelle is just beginning. What do you think about this? Is the new plan to allow public access to the house a good idea, or is it playing with fire? Let us know your theories in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the world's most terrifying true stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You never know what we'll uncover next. The turning point came when things shifted from just plain bizarre to outright menacing. According to the story, Lou and Angie were in the apartment alone, planning a road trip, when they heard rustling from Donna's bedroom. Worried there was an intruder, Lou quietly went to the bedroom door. He listened for a second, then threw the door open. The room was empty, except for Annabelle. She'd been tossed off the bed and was now lying in a corner. He stepped into the room, and as he looked at the doll, he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his chest, as if someone were clawing at him. He cried out and looked down to see several distinct scratch marks raked across his skin. There were reportedly 7 marks in total, 3 vertical and 4 horizontal, all hot to the touch. They knew, without a doubt, that no one else was in that room. For them, the doll had attacked him. The story goes that the scratches healed unnaturally fast. They were half gone the next day and completely vanished by the second. This was the final straw. They needed help. Desperate for an explanation, the women contacted a medium who held a séance in the apartment. The medium told them she'd made contact with a spirit named Annabelle Higgins. According to the medium, Annabelle was a 7-year-old girl whose body had supposedly been found in a field where their apartment complex now stood, years before it was built. The spirit said she felt safe with the 2 nurses and wanted to stay with them by inhabiting the Raggedy Ann doll. Feeling sorry for what they believed was a lost little girl, the women agreed. They gave the spirit of Annabelle permission to reside in the doll. In doing so, they had just given something far more sinister exactly what it wanted: an invitation. After the women granted permission, the paranormal activity reportedly exploded. It was no longer just movements and notes, it was a full-blown infestation, all centered on the doll. Realizing they were in way over their heads, they contacted an Episcopal priest, who in turn reached out to the highest authorities he knew in the paranormal field: Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed, a demonologist, and Lorraine, a clairvoyant, arrived at the apartment, and their investigation was swift. After interviewing everyone, Ed came to a chilling conclusion. This wasn't the ghost of a little girl. According to the Warrens, human spirits don't have the power to possess objects. What they were dealing with, he claimed, was an inhuman, demonic spirit. Ed explained that this entity had never actually possessed the doll. Instead, it was manipulating the doll, moving it and causing all the phenomena to give the impression of a haunting. Its real goal wasn't to live in a toy. It was to possess a human host. The story of Annabelle Higgins, he said, was a complete fabrication, a clever lie designed to earn the women's sympathy and, most importantly, their permission. By allowing Annabelle to stay, they had given a demonic entity a foothold in their lives. Before we get into what happened when the Warrens tried to remove the doll, if you're finding this story as chilling as we are, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss our deep dives into the world's most terrifying, true paranormal cases. The Warrens knew the doll had to be removed immediately. Ed decided the only safe thing to do was to take it with them. He picked up the doll and, as a precaution, decided to avoid the major highways, fearing the entity could mess with the car at high speeds and cause a fatal accident. It was a wise move. Even on the back roads, the drive home was reportedly terrifying. Ed later described how the car was plagued with problems. The power steering and brakes repeatedly failed, and the engine kept cutting out, nearly causing them to crash several times. Convinced the entity tied to the doll was responsible, Ed pulled over, opened his bag, and doused the Raggedy Ann doll in holy water. According to the Warrens, the disturbances stopped instantly, and they made it the rest of the way home without another incident. The battle was over for now, but the war was just beginning.